Hello everyone, welcome to the class.
Hello everyone. Hello Professor Qiu.
In the last sections of this chapter, we've learned the beauty of European architecture. Today, we'll focus on the comparison of the beauty of Chinese and Western architectural design.
As we learned in last part, the traditional Western buildings were mainly built of stone, as the pyramid, the ancient Greek temple, the Colosseum in Rome, and medieval churches.
Yes, the most essential difference between the Chinese and Western architectural culture is building materials. So, stone is the basic language of the Western architectural design culture.
But traditional Oriental buildings were mainly built of wood. The verse on Epeng Palace wrote that, "When 6 states perished, the whole country was united. When Epeng Palace was completed, Wu Mountain was built." The most basic language of architecture design culture in China is wood.
Chinese wooden buildings are characterized by low material density, short construction period, large span, suitable for lateral development, exterior wall, heat, insulation and cold, resistance, weak seismic capacity and short service life.
Western stone construction materials have the characteristics of high density, long construction cycle, large bearing capacity, suitable for high altitude development, and long service life.
Different building materials and different building language express different ideas and aesthetic feelings. Western farming husbandry economy cultivates the original will to way rationalism, emphasizing that man is the master of the world in the relationship between human and nature, and that man's strength and wisdom can overcome everything.
China's farming economy cultivates the civilization to way collection and storage, believing that nature and man can understand each other well, and that man is an integral part of nature. In addition to natural factors, Chinese people choose wood as building materials, maybe because they value the relationship that man and nature are one, which is constituted by the wood.
Chinese architecture is a complex composed of monocoque buildings. The general style is inward, closed and serious, in pursuit of simplicity and privacy.
Chinese architecture design is developed horizontally, while Western architectural design goes up into the air. Western traditional buildings pay more attention to the architectural artifact of monocoque building, vertical extension in space, high and towering. The urban layout is often concentrically radial in the open, lively, and free style.
The Western architecture owes the open and high space pattern first to the stone columns, and then to the technique of the arch.
Liang Sicheng, a Chinese architect, once had a very appropriate metaphor. When you look at a Western building, it is like a painting which can be taken into sight at one angle. When you look at a Chinese building, it is like a scroll painting, which comes into sight as it is being unfolded, and except for aerial photograph, the entire image cannot be taken into picture at any angle.
The special culture is best reflected in the traditional courtyard design culture. Siheyuan in China has a history of more than 3,000 years. Initially, Siheyuan is the corridor yard. Namely, main buildings are built along the axis, around which corridors are circled. In the late Tang Dynasty, the veranda yard gradually took the place of the corridor yard, narrow in front and square at the rear. After the Song dynasty, corridor yard decreased and disappeared in the Ming and Qing dynasties.
In the West, family members respect equal and free personality. The courtyard culture does not tend to be introverted and closed, but extroverted and open.
The ancient Egyptian civilization was nourished by the Nile, and the ancient Greek civilization was nourished by the Aegean Sea. The ancient Greeks had high attainments in literature, drama, sculpture, architecture, philosophy, and so on.
The construction of large public buildings was an architectural feature of ancient Greece. The existing buildings, such as temples, theaters, and arena, reflect the artistic tastes of the ancient Greeks.
The ancient Romans absorbed the excellent cultural achievements of ancient Greece and created the ancient Roman culture necessary for their own social, economic, and political development, among which the residential building was greatly improved.
Influenced by the ancient Greece, hierarchic system was not obvious in the residence, except that the rich people often lived in the suburbs, far free from the noise and crowding of the city, with villa or mansion designed along central axis. In order to make full use of the courtyard space, more floors were often built around the courtyard to increase the usable area. Multi-story apartments were mostly for normal citizens. Ancient Romans residents paid attention to privacy protection, and the worship of God and of their ancestors was often expressed in the residence.
Based on the influence of ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, and ancient Rome, the European garden style developed into 5 branches: the Italian terrace garden, French water garden, English natural garden, Dutch regular garden, English theme park.
The Italian terrace garden was earliest developed and considered the originator of European garden design. Actually, prior to it, Italian Medicis existed, and after the Italian Baroque existed. But only the terrace garden reached the summit of Italian garden design, and played a great role in the rise of the Renaissance in Italy.
In Italy, terrace garden main feature was arranged on the wide road along the central axis, with pure and fresh flower beds and sculptures of the characters in the Greek mythology. The architects and gardeners who built the Italian terrace garden were mostly ancient Greeks who fled from Turkish invasion of their countries to Italy.
If the European gardens of the 15th and the 16th centuries were famous in Italy, those of the 17th century were famous in France, and then those of the 18th century were famous in UK. British gardening broke the tradition of Italy and France artificial engineering design to trim trees into shapes of geometry and of animals, and got ready of the combined gardens with natural landscape to form a new fashion free in the form. Simple in content, concise in construction, and beautiful in nature featured with scenery garden.
The design culture of British garden was inseparable from the society, philosophy, and culture of the time. For example, Francis Bacon disagreed with the aesthetic view of ancient Greece that beauty was in the harmony of proportion, and he believed that all great beauty is not harmonious in proportion. Jean-Jacques Rousseau also argued about going back to nature.
In addition, the praise and vision of Chinese gardens also contributed to the formation of the English natural landscape. William Temple, a British politician and writer, once said, "Chinese gardens look like a portion of nature, and its balanced layout was explicit but implicit." He viewed the British gardens were only orderly and regular in the past, unaware that completely irregular gardens were more beautiful and more attractive. He also believed that the great achievement in Chinese gardens have made was to create a disorderly beauty beyond control.
In Britain's natural scenery garden, there was some taste of Chinese landscape design culture, and garden design culture of China and the West met here after thousands of years of evolution, which is the manifestation of cultural aesthetics community, namely, the same phenomenon possesses the same or similar aesthetic standards in cultures of different regions and different periods.
The development of Chinese garden design culture has gone through different stages, such as the beginning stage called You in the Shang dynasty. It means something like zoo, which was simply a natural scenic area enclosed for the emperor to hunt. In the Han dynasty, it was built as the imperial traveling palace, called Yuan. It was not until the Wei, Jin, and northern southern dynasties the true pursuit of natural garden began.
In the Sui and Tang dynasties, images depicted by the poems were introduced into the landscape design, and the Chinese garden design art succeeded in transforming from the natural landscape to freehand landscape design. During the Song and the Yuan periods, the literary painters participated in the design and strengthened the freehand artistic landscape.
At its peak during the Ming and Qing dynasties, Suzhou had a saying that Jiangnan Garden is the finest under the heaven, and the Suzhou Garden is the finest over Jiangnan. Humble Administrator's Garden, Lingering Garden, Lion Grove, Surgeon Wave Pavilion, and Wangshi Garden embody the Chinese garden art of poetry. In the north, there are imperial gardens like Summer Palace, Old Summer Palace, Summer Resort, and so on.
Chinese garden design gives priority to winding line, stressing that the winding path leads to a secluded spot and feng shui gathers qi, tabooing to take the garden inside at a glance. And demanding buildings, landscape, flowers, and trees.
Buildings include wooden pavilions, platforms, galleries, hut-on terrace, moon gates, beautiful case windows. Black tiles and pink walls have played the role to cut off or guide or separate the sighting, reproducing the natural landscape beauty by showing the infinite, rich landscape in the limited space.
Yes, the art of architecture and garden is the art of space, said by Zong Baihua, a master of Chinese aesthetics, in the book Aesthetics Works.
Professor Qiu, the characteristics of Chinese architecture and Western architecture are so different, but it shows the people's pursuit of architectural beauty in different periods and regions. Meanwhile, the mutual learning and integration of Chinese and Western architectural elements has never stopped.
Yes, A full understanding of the reasons behind its architectural features and aesthetic pursuit will help us to avoid inappropriate design in modern life and improve our aesthetic ability about architecture. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.